Hi guys, shaking in again. Oh, sorry guys, I'm a little bit late. I was just about to press live and there was someone knocking at our door, so I had to run out there. Now I'm out of breath running back in. Today's topic, guys, anger and ET. I've held off on this one for a long time because it's a hard one. As we've said before, our ET runs our emotions, or our emotions kickstart our ET. Whichever way, I don't know what way it is, but I want to show you today by talking about something that is a really hard subject, but a lot of yous are going through it now. And you will see, and I'll explain through the video, trying to reply to people's messages about this is very tough. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because it was a tough time in my life. It was when I noticed my ET progressed basically overnight because of how tough it was. So I'll explain. I'm going to hold these two just takeaway cups while I'm talking, and you will see how my ET takes over. When I talk about touchy subjects or hard subjects, my ET will take over. Okay, here we go. I'm talking, this was 20 years ago, and this will show how ET still runs our emotions even 20, 30 years later. It was just after Shane and I were together, and one of my old friends rang me up and asked me if I could take her to the hospital. She couldn't drive, there was something wrong with her arm, and I said, all right, not a problem. So I drove her to the hospital, and while we were sitting in there, of course you've got to wait in every hospital room. And while we were sitting in there, she started to go off her head. In the end, they had security standing around us. You could imagine my ET was off the charts. I went up to the nurses. I said, please, just get us in there. Get us in somewhere. I couldn't understand why she was carrying on like this. It's a hospital. You have to wait. Everyone has to wait. They ended up, there were no rooms available, but just to get us out of the waiting room, they ended up sitting us in the aisle. And the nurse had a look at her arm and said, is that the arm you use? Well, I've cracked it at this nurse. I said, just because there's something wrong with her arm, it doesn't mean that there's something wrong. How dare you put her in that class? My friend was saying, Nick, she's right. That was the first I knew about it, and I was the only one that knew about it. So, what could I do? I was so disgusted. I was so embarrassed. I was shaking like mad, as you could imagine. Anyway, she had to move out of the house she was in. She wanted to move in with us. I was a bit reluctant because I knew what she was doing. No one else knew about it. No one in her family knew about it. In the end, I said, okay, we'll help her out. At least then I know about it. I'll be able to deal with it better than someone that doesn't know what's going on. So the first couple of weeks was all right. And then, oh, hell broke loose. The abuse started. The abuse started at me. The abuse started at the kids. She'd be awake all night and wanted to sleep all day. We had 5 kids, and Shane and I, 7 people living in our house, and she would go off her head at all of us. We had to try, we were walking on eggshells the whole time. I couldn't understand why there was a big change. Then she said, I need more meds. I understood what she meant by that. Her monthly meds were only lasting 2 weeks. I then decided I had to get some help. I needed to tell her family. I needed to tell her parents, which was the hardest thing in the world I'd ever had to do. and see their faces to find that out. So they suggested that I speak to the doctor and the chemist and see what they could suggest. I spoke to them. They said there's nothing much they can do except maybe give me the medication and I could control the dosage. Well, that made it hell absolutely worse. I didn't think it could get worse. The abuse started as soon as first thing in the morning. Some mornings she would wake me up because she needed it. I would give it to her and then I would wait for her to walk into her room and I would quickly grab my bag and jump in the car and drive out. Before I could even get out of my driveway, she was ringing me, abusing me, get back here, calling me every name under the sun. I need those meds, you get back here. I would go and stay at my friends' places most of the day, just crying. Driving back in was when I realised, one morning I remember having my first panic attack, driving into the street. I had to pull over, I couldn't breathe. I had my jumper up at my mouth, trying to breathe, trying to catch my breath. I thought I was going to die in the car on the way there. And that was going home to my house because I knew the abuse was going to start before I even turned the car off. And I found out like she was stealing my daughter's ADHD medications and stealing our medications. I had to lock everything in our rooms. In the end, it was time to get her out. The abuse didn't stop. She didn't understand. We were trying to help her. The abuse didn't stop. But to get her out of the house, we needed to pay the rent and our mortgage. To get her out, we had two friends actually. One friend, Kim, was moving away in about a month's time, and another friend, John, wanted to move out of the house he was in. So we ended up to get her out of ours. We moved Kim into ours for a couple of weeks. We moved John into Kim's. Shane and I did. She done nothing. And we moved her into John's. Then it was up to her, but it didn't stop me worrying about her. And you know what? Even though this was over 20 years ago, look at me. This still talking about it takes me back. It takes me back to that. And the worst thing was, it was the most horrible time in my life, in my kids' life. I put my kids through that. I should never have put my kids through that. The amount of times that my kids had to dive in between her and I as we had our fists up at each other, about to kill each other. You know, she'd say things just to crack me. She'd say things like, this will be mine and Shane's house, not yours. It'll never be your house, and things like that, you know. The saddest part is she doesn't remember. Or she won't remember, or she can't remember. I don't know, but look at me. My ET won't forget. My ET, bringing this up, you can imagine if this topic comes up in front of people, people say to me, calm down, Jesus, look at you. And I say, I'll be right, like, give me 5 minutes, change the subject, I'll be right, I'll calm back down. It's my ET going back to that time. And I will never forget, unfortunately. If you ask her, we owe her, she's never done anything for us. You know, my kids, they said it was tough for them. You know, then my kids and I had a tough time. Before that, my kids, if I used to shake at my kids, they'd get a bit worried and, oh, gee, Mum's going, getting angry, I better not make her any angrier. After that, my kids not loved, but my kids would push me to the brink because they saw her pushing me to the brink all the time. I lost it with my kids over the next few years in their teenage years. Getting into their teenage years because they'd seen that. They'd seen their mum go through that and Mum did nothing about it. I know a lot of yous are going through this at the moment. As I said, you know, so many messages come through and you can imagine me trying to write the text back to yous, feeling the way I do about this subject. Especially after COVID, there's a lot more around now. My heart breaks for you all. The worst thing about ours is that, you know, it wasn't one of our kids. It wasn't Shane. It wasn't me. It was someone we were trying to help. I've never wiped her for it. Now I still try and help her. We messaged each other at Christmas time, and then a few weeks after Christmas I get a phone call from her saying, are you over it yet? Well, of course that's going to crack me. Because straight away I think, if you're talking about the hell you put me through all those years ago, I'll never get over that. But if you're talking about anything else, I have no idea what you're talking about. So guys, this is what I mean by anger. I'll calm down now that the subject's over. But you relive it. Your ET relives it. It's my ET that's taking over at that time. I'm feeling that. You do it when you're sad as well. If you think of a sad time in your life, you're crying. Your ET rules you somehow. And this is anger. As I said, for everyone going through it, my heart breaks for you. Please take care, stay safe, look after yourselves. I love you all, guys. That was a tough one. We'll have a fun one on Friday. I love you all. Take care, stay safe. Bye, guys. I'm okay now. See, subject's over. It's only why you talk about it.